We are live. Welcome, everyone. We'll just give people a minute or two to get here with me. I'm going to check out a couple of things real quick. There we go. Oh, yeah. One last thing I got to get really started. Yes. Okay. We're live. It's great to see everyone here. As always, oops, not that. As always, if you're here and you'd like to say hello, please say hello, because I can't see your names here. You need to let me know who you are. If you want, no requirements. This is going to be an encore presentation of a presentation we did a couple of weeks ago, because a few people said they missed it and they wanted to catch it live. I thought it'd be a great idea to do it again, because I wanted to add a couple of things that I didn't get to last time. So this is called Breaking Free from the Stress Cycle. For those of you guys who haven't met me before, my name is Dr. Fred Blum. Great to see you. And I'll give you a little bit of background on this idea. What is this thing I call the stress cycle? Well, a number of years ago, I used to practice as a holistic chiropractor, and I was trying to create this model that described how stress led to pain and physical breakdown. What I came to realize more recently, as I was kind of looking at that model, I hadn't seen it in a while, is that it's really a model for how we deal with stress in general and how stress affects our life in myriad ways beyond just physical illness or physical breakdown. So what I want to do today is illustrate some of the primary ways that our current strategies for dealing with stress may not be leading us in a direction that we really want to go. So here's the model, and I'm going to have to share my screen to do that. So give me a moment here. There we go. Share screen. It takes way too many steps to do this with this program, but it's okay. We'll get there. No, not that one. We're going to figure this out, folks. All right, we'll just do it this way. Allow, and then we're going to pull this one up. Okay. I believe now, yes, we are sharing this screen. Awesome. Okay, so what I want you to see here is this model called the stress cycle. Begins right here with what we call chronic stress overload. Now, this is really important. What do I mean by chronic stress overload? Simply that you have been building up stress for some period of time. Now, stress comes essentially in three flavors: physical stress, chemical stress, or emotional stress. Physical stress, pretty obvious: falls, car accidents, postural stress, being on your phone all the time, doing stuff like that. That's an example of physical stress. Chemical stress, poor diet, drugs, alcohol, whether prescribed or recreational, toxins in the air or the water, things like that can overload our ability to adapt, to detoxify, and so we build up chemical stress. And then the third, emotional or mental stress, I think you have a pretty good idea what that is. So these things all sort of impinge on us. Constantly, we're dealing with stress. And what happens is the job of our nervous system is to help us, among many other things, it's to help us adapt to the various stresses of our lives. So the stress comes into our system constantly, and in a perfect world, that stress, we will learn and process from that information and send it back out. So the stress comes into our system, we learn, we grow, we make whatever changes we need to make, and we send that energy, that information back out into the environment so we don't hold it. But occasionally, probably more than we'd like to even believe, that stress overloads us. It overloads our ability to adapt in that moment, either because it's too intense, bam, it just hits us all at once and we can't adapt, like maybe a car accident or something like that, or a severe emotional trauma, or it's maybe slowly builds up over time and it just wears us down. But either way, that's what creates this state that we're calling chronic stress overload, where the stress has begun chronically to accumulate in our system. That brings us to the next stage here, what I'm calling defending. Now, defending means that your nervous system has become overloaded in its attempt to adapt to these stresses, and it goes into a state that we call fight or flight. Most of you guys have probably heard this term before. Fight or flight is the emergency mode of your nervous system. It's what we're designed for in an actual threat. So it's a brilliant response if there's an actual threat to your life or your safety or something like that. But it's a terrible way to live your life. And newsflash, many of us are living our lives this way right now. We are literally living to some degree. It's not like all or nothing, but to some degree, our nervous system is locked in this fight or flight, constant stress response that may have nothing to do with your actual environment, but just the result of old stresses that it got stuck in a loop, you see? So this is really important because staying in this state of defending, in this state of fight or flight, begins to cause different ways our body begins to try and alert us to the various, overload, to the building level of tension and stress in our system. And we call this next stage intensifying. This is where we're reaching various thresholds, various areas where we can't adapt as effectively as we would like to. And your body begins creating warning signals. Now, what's another name for warning signal? We call those symptoms. Okay, so your symptoms are simply your body-mind's way of telling you that you're reaching the limit, that you've gone too far down a particular direction. And if you don't do something, things are going to begin to break down. That the warning signals are only the tip of the iceberg, the symptoms. They're what's letting you know that something needs to change. Now, the challenge is that in this culture, we're taught to do what with symptoms? How do we treat symptoms? Like an annoyance, like a bother, like something that we have to just get rid of so we can go right back to do the stuff that we were doing before that caused us to begin to break down in the first place. So I call that stage disconnecting. Okay, disconnecting is where we begin checking out, where we begin disconnecting. So we try to ignore first those symptoms, those warning signals from our system, from our body and our mind. But ultimately, we end up having, we can't ignore them forever. They just keep coming back. So we resort to symptomatic treatment. We resort to just doing whatever we can to get comfortable enough to keep doing the same stuff over and over and over again. Now, I'm laughing about this because it seems kind of crazy to me, but at the same time, I realize that there may be some of you out there that are doing this because you don't yet see the alternative. So hang in there for a few minutes and we're going to get there. This is not funny for you, and I realize that. Because ultimately, if we stay in this state of disconnection long enough, we end up in this final stage, which I call surviving. Surviving basically says what? This is my life now. There's nowhere else. There's nothing else to do. I'm just going to resign myself to the fact that I'm going to be anxious or depressed or in pain or have no energy all of the time. This is just how I feel. This is apathy. We've just given up. And of course, that state of apathy and survival just sets us up to build more stress up in the system. So we even load more stress, creating greater state of fight or flight, causing additional symptoms, more symptomatic treatment, and even deepening that cycle. Round and round and round we go. So that's just a quick glimpse at how this looks and how this cycle operates. Let me move it out of the way for a second and we'll stop sharing the screen. All right. And let me get up here so I could see what I'm talking about. All right. There's a lot of things to manage here all at once. So Does this make sense to you guys? Let me know. Send me a comment. Let me know if this is, oh, Angela said, am I supposed to see a document? Sorry, I wasn't able to see my comments while I was doing this. Let me know, did none of you guys see the document? If that's true, I'll put it back up, but I'm going to go forward right now. Hopefully it came up after that comment was made. Basically, what I want you to understand, and I'm going to make this fairly brief today, is the stress cycle is what happens when we begin to treat the stress and the resulting symptoms that those stresses create as the problem in and of themselves, instead of looking at the underlying cause of those stresses, our inability to adapt effectively. So Angela said the diagram did not go up. Darn it. So I'm going to put it up again right now. Thank you for letting me know, Angela. And we will, there it is right here. Okay. So, Angela, since you're being so kind, let me know if you see it now. It should be on the screen. I'm going to make it large, but you should be seeing. Okay, yay, she says she sees it. So here it is again. I'm going to go through it again briefly for you guys. It probably doesn't hurt to repeat it. Here we go from the beginning. Chronic stress overload. I explained what that is, right? It's the accumulation of stress in the nervous system, putting the nervous system into a state of defending, a fight or flight, where it is having difficulty adapting to the stresses, and it goes into that chronic emergency fight or flight state, leading ultimately to the state of intensification, where we're reaching threshold, our ability to adapt has reached its limits, and it's beginning to create warning signals, what we call symptoms. But we don't like the symptoms in this culture. We try and get rid of the symptoms, so we disconnect from what our body's trying to tell us. We check out, and we do whatever we can to just make the symptoms feel better. But of course, I think everyone can realize that constantly treating the effects and not dealing with the cause of our problems isn't really a winning strategy. And so ultimately, by continuing to do this, we end up in the state of survival. This is my life now, this state of apathy, where you've just kind of resigned yourself to this is what life is like. Leading, of course, to more stress, more defending, more intensifying, disconnecting, and the cycle goes round and round. So, Angela, thank you for letting me know that. I am going to stop sharing again, and I'm going to attempt to stay on track. So, what are the opportunities here? The simple opportunity is to begin to understand these symptoms, these warning signals that life is giving us, and to learn to see them sooner and sooner, rather than waiting till you get the headache that you know is going to happen every time you work too hard. What if you pay attention? You bring some awareness into the process while you're working. You notice that maybe stress is building up. You're starting to get tense. You're starting to get a little frustrated, whatever it may be. And so you notice that if you take a moment every 15 or 20 minutes and just pause, maybe pause for 30 seconds, take a couple of nice, easy breaths, begin to lower that stress level in real time, rather than waiting for it to build up to the point where something has to give. And so the possibility here is to live life more consciously, to live life with a level of awareness that allows you to be more present with what's happening in the moment. And when we do that, as we begin to engage more directly with our lives, with the actual things that are happening each moment, this process of defending can become a process of opening to life. The process of intensifying becomes one of listening to life's messages. The process of disconnecting can become reconnecting and listening again at a deeper level. Surviving becomes thriving, and chronic stress overload becomes effortless flow. So that's the essence of what I want to communicate with you here, that there is an alternative to being trapped in this endless cycle of stress and symptomatology and survival and apathy. There is an alternative to that. But I want you to know something. Most of us, it's difficult for us to do this alone. We're going to need help. And that's where we begin to look for, how can I become more aware? How can I become more present and engaged in my life rather than just going through the motions automatically? So a few simple tips, okay? Wherever you are in this cycle, even if you're all the way at that point where you're at apathy, take a moment and slow down. Right now, slow down. Just be present with your experience right in this moment. What is happening right now in your body or your mind? Can you notice your breathing? Can you notice your tension level, your emotional state right now? How are you doing? Now, I want to be clear. This is not about fixing anything. That's a really common pitfall here. What I want you to do here is just notice. Just notice where you're at in this process. Now, just by being present, just by learning to reconnect to the wisdom of life, eventually, and again, you may need some help with that. That's what I'm here for. Eventually, you can begin to see that there is a part of us that is untouched by all of this craziness, all this stress, even the symptomatology and the pain and the challenges of your life. There's a part that is beyond all of it. And I call this your true self or your true nature. Tapping into your true self doesn't eliminate your stress or your symptoms. It's designed to just give you a different perspective on it. Angela's saying, I love your freedom group right now, totally helping me to see and love myself on a deeper level. Thank you, Angela. That is wonderful to hear. And I'm very glad. And you're doing awesome work in that group as well. And that's the message that I really want to share. The reason I believe in my 30 plus years that I've been exploring how it is that we can live happy, successful, fulfilled, peaceful lives. What I've really come to is that the answer is to wake up to who we really are. The answer is to wake up to the peace and the well-being and the freedom that's already in here. And as you begin to wake up to that, your relationship to the stresses of your life will change. You'll find yourself listening differently to the experiences of your life rather than just trying to power through them. I hope that makes sense to you guys. And that's really all I want to share with you today. Just this idea that we can come to a place of peace and well-being amidst the crazy stresses. The times we're living in right now are pretty crazy by most people's standards. And if it were possible that you could live during these times in a place of peace and happiness and well-being, wouldn't that be worth checking that out? How could that be possible for you? So toward that end, if this is something that resonates for you, if you'd like to know more, just please reach out to me. We'll set up a time to talk. That's all we're going to do is we're going to talk. First time we'll talk probably for 15 minutes or so just to kind of see where you're at. If we feel like there's something that we want to explore a little further. And if there is, we'll set up a longer conversation, probably about an hour, where I will waive my fee, my normal fee for a coaching session, just to give you a sense of what this work is like and how learning to tap into your true self can change your life in ways that I think you can't even maybe imagine right now. This is not a strategy. This is not a technique like some kind of stress management tool. It's literally learning to go to the place where stress doesn't affect you. Not to ignore the stress like we do in the disconnecting phase, but to be able to change our relationship to it in a way that allows you to thrive even under the most difficult circumstances. So if that sounds like a game worth playing, I invite you, I challenge you to reach out and set up a conversation with me. And if this doesn't seem like your thing, that's cool too. But I wanted to let you know that there was an alternative available to constantly pushing through it like we've been trained to do. So with that, I want to keep these as short as I can. Thank you, those of you who have been here. Thank you, Angela, for letting me know about the missing diagram. And I look forward to hearing from those of you who would like to explore more. My name again is Dr. Fred Blum, and I approve this message. Thanks. Peace.